Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. Welcome to a new video. Thank you for clicking on this. This is going to be a video where I'm going to be sharing with you how I feel at the moment about the definition of the word veganism and using the word vegan or veganism in general. So before we get into this, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also click the notification button. I'm also on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram if you want to follow me there as well for more animal rights content. So back to the word veganism and being a vegan and what it means when it comes to the official definition given by the Vegan Society. So on the website of the Vegan Society, we can see the definition of veganism. Veganism is a philosophy and way of living which seeks to exclude as far as possible and practicable all forms of exploitation of and cruelty to animals for food, clothing, or any other purpose, and by extension promotes the development and use of animal-free alternatives for the benefit of animals, humans, and the environment. In dietary terms, it denotes the practice of dispensing with all products derived wholly or partly from animals. So, as you can see, it sounds quite normal. It just explains what a vegan basically would do and what the lifestyle is. However, I do find that it takes so much away from the core philosophy of animal rights and animal liberation. I at no point actually realize that this is a stance against human supremacy, against anthropocentrism. I also do not necessarily see any call for joining or becoming active in order to reach what we would call a vegan world. So let's dissect this part by part. Veganism is a philosophy and way of living which seeks to exclude. To begin with, I would much rather say which opposes, and then add all those things that we as vegans oppose. I don't like the way that we would approach something as important as veganism and say seeking to exclude. We're not seeking, we're opposing what is happening to animals. So when you say I seek to exclude this, it kind of sounds weird. Can you imagine if we put another justice-based social issue in this day and age, for example racism, and you define anti-racism the same way? I quickly researched to find the definition of anti-racism, and it says anti-racism is a form of action against racism and the systemic racism and the oppression of marginalized groups. Imagine if instead of this it said anti-racism seeks to exclude racism and systemic racism. It just doesn't sound as serious as it actually is, and it also kind of makes it sound like, yeah, it's a preference, like not really a horrible thing in its core. Now, if we continue after mentioning all the things that a vegan would seek to exclude, it also says that by extension it promotes the development and use of animal-free alternatives for the benefit of animals, humans, and the environment. Now, my problem is that it makes it sound like we cannot get there yet because we still have to promote the development. We still have to develop this alternative, whereas the alternative is there. I mean, you don't need to ride horses. There are bicycles, there are motorbikes, there are cars, there are buses, there are trains. You don't really need to have the best vegan burger that tastes exactly like meat. You can still have black bean burgers. It's there. You don't really need to work on developing it. You don't need veganism to exist in order for the alternative to exist, because the alternative has existed for thousands of years. Grains, fruits, veggies, nuts, and seeds have always been there. They weren't waiting for veganism to come for people to start promoting the development of these animal-free alternatives. So I also think it creates this idea that we can seek to exclude it, but we also have to work on finding an alternative when we obviously have extremely clear and easy alternatives. Now, another thing I want to say that in the beginning it says as far as is possible and practicable. I don't really feel that, again, this is a fair way to putting it, because I feel like it clears such a gray area where people can start asking, well, what is possible for me? What is practical for me? Whereas if you're really against it, it's kind of black and white. You don't really need to create this gray area that actually gives a green card for people to abuse, let's say, this definition and say, well, based on the definition, what I'm doing is completely justified because for me, it's not practicable. So I really think we should be much more serious about veganism and what's happening to animals instead of using definitions that can be played with or have so many gray areas in general. So let's quickly get back to the example that I gave earlier with the definition of anti-racism and see how we would feel if we apply this to that. Can you imagine someone saying, I'm an anti-racist, and when the person replies, well, what do you mean by being an anti-racist? They say, anti-racism seeks to exclude racism and the systemic racism and the oppression of marginalized groups as far as is possible and practicable. I mean, it's quite clear that there's something wrong with using these terms when it comes to something as awful as what we're doing to other animals. So we really, I think, should redefine to make it a stronger, clearer message to those who are hearing about it for the first time. It's just not as serious as the reality of animal exploitation is, and how badly animals' rights should be respected and they should have total liberation. Now, another thing I want to quickly address is kind of more personal, but I do prefer not acting like animals and humans are completely different species, completely different categories. People still argue whether or not humans are animals or not animals. However, I don't think that putting this separation is in any way useful to our cause. I don't like that it says for the benefit of animals, humans, and the environment, because when you say animals and then humans, it's as if we're totally separated and there's nothing in common there. I would much rather refer to them as other animals, because we have to stop thinking that we are so separated that we are in another category, because this also kind of gives more space for human supremacy to rise. So once we start referring to other animals as other animals instead of animals, it sounds like something more relatable. So for example, instead of saying I don't eat animals, I say I don't eat other animals. In my opinion, it just sounds better. So I wish that was the case in this as well. However, I am aware that this is quite a personal thing. Some people prefer saying human and non-human animals. I still think that separation is kind of harmful, but there's not really a perfect way to measure which one is better than the other. However, feel free to let me know how you deal with this part in the comment section below. Now, to finish, I want to talk about the word vegan in general. I've kind of realized also that the term itself doesn't necessarily say anything about other animals. It's more about what humans feel. It's more about what I am doing personally. Whereas if you actually talk about animal rights or animal liberation, you're actually concentrating on the victim that you're trying to help. So if you're walking with someone and they say, hey, do you want to grab something at this restaurant? And you know that that restaurant doesn't have any vegan options. You say, well, I can't, as if it's something that you have dietary or nutritional issues with. And if they say why, you say because I'm a vegan. And there you just missed the opportunity to actually talk about other animals. You just said what you are, but why are you vegan? You're completely missing out on an amazing opportunity to share information about what's happening to other animals. So I really believe that it's much better if, when we have the opportunity to say that I will not do a certain thing because I'm a vegan, we actually use that opportunity to talk about why you don't do that, as in because of the victims involved, and explain what that is, instead of saying why you don't do that because what your personal beliefs are, what you personally follow, what's the diet that you follow. It's very human-based, I believe, to constantly use this word when referring to yourself, when you can actually kind of switch it around and talk about other animals. Now, I still use the word vegan, by the way. I'm not saying that we should stop using the word vegan. I think it's beneficial in many ways. For example, labeling food products. But that's just another sign that it has become a very food-based notion. You know, when you say I'm vegan, therefore I will not eat this, it's a very food-based instead of justice-based. Whereas if you say, I will not eat this because I'm an animal rights activist or animal rights advocate or animal liberation activist, you have just opened this huge opportunity to talk about what that means. And not saying that you can't do that if you say you're vegan, but it does kind of create a blockage that I think is not there when you use other terms. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed watching this. I definitely want to hear what you think about it. I have just been thinking a lot about this recently and I decided to make a video with you. I'm not saying that if you don't agree with me, you're not vegan. However, I do want to know what you think about this. So please don't forget to write in the comment section below. And again, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button. Thank you for everyone who's been supporting my work through Patreon. I really appreciate it. If you're interested in doing that from anywhere from $1, check out my website, SEBALEX.org, to find more information. Also, check out Ethics Over Habits if you want vegan, organic, and fair trade t-shirts and other merchandise. All the profits help me with my activism. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.